and welcome to day 30 of our 30-day coding challenge from CS and Math. And today we are going to do the last challenge. Now, I went through a handful of ideas, and this one just felt right. So today we are going to do randomizing and scoring your own 30-day challenge list. So we are going to end the 30-day challenge with you creating a 30-day challenge. Now, we actually get to cover adding and removing randomly from a list, which in probability is a method to simulate drawing without replacement, right? In this case, we're going to be drawing your own creation of a 30-day challenge. So it's going to be interesting and kind of fun, so go ahead and get fired up on Trinket if you're not already. All right, to set up the basic idea, I just have a list. I called it num for numbers, and I put some numbers in there, 1, 2, and 3. And let's just make sure you understand how to add and remove. So for example, I could do num, which is the name of the list, dot append, which means to add. And let's say I want to append 4 to that list. Yep. And then for there, I could just reprint num. And if you run this, notice that it added 4 to the end. And I could keep doing this, right? I could iterate through, I could add to the list. What's more is you can prompt. So for example, if I did, something like add number, I could do input. I could ask for the input of what's the next number. Sorry about that. And if I did something like that, I could add to the list. Now, whatever I put in here will store into add num, so I'll put add num here. And now if you notice I do this, if I run it, it says prompts me for what's your next number that you want to add. And let's say I put 4 there now. Notice this last one now is a string, right? Because it's got the quotations around it. If I wanted it to be an integer, remember I would have to convert it to an integer. So this quickly just is a way to go ahead and add things to your list. So let's say I put a 4 in there now. Notice how it adds it as a number like it was before. So you don't have to prompt. I was just showing how to do that because a lot of people usually ask, well, how do I manually type this stuff in to add it on? So there, that is covered. All right, I paused there just to move a little faster. So notice I changed the code here and I changed the append. I took that off and used the method remove on the number list. So then I would say sub number, meaning like subtract this number. What's the number to remove? And I just changed this to subnum. So now if I run this, it's going to ask me what number do you want to remove. Let's say I want to remove the 2. Notice how it takes that away. So we have 2 things that we just went through. You could do appending to a list or adding or remove. Now, these are not the only commands, right? You could go to the list of the documentation to get them. One thing to note is that remove is not the only way to get rid of things from a list. There's also what's called del, which you'd understand means delete, and pop. So let me talk about the differences there. So in this nice resource from the Stack Overflow, it tells, I like this summary, it says remove removes the first matching value. So like let's say for example you had a list with 2 2s, if you said to remove 2, it would take away that first one. Whereas del will remove at a specific index or location. So if I do del 1, this is the 0 term, remember, and the first term, so it would remove, I guess this one does remove, yeah, it removes the 8. So it removes the 8 because this is a 0 term, it's the first term. And then pop does the same, but also returns that value. Okay, so for this program, we'll probably use one of these other 2. And maybe I'll go with pop because I haven't used that before, just to make sure we got it. Okay, let's go into our example. You know what, it's probably easier after looking through it and thinking here to just stick with this simple one, and then we'll transfer the code over. So a lot of times, just like with math rules, it's easy to keep things small and easy, or it's better to keep things small and easy when you're doing something new, just to make sure you've got the ideas down. All right, so again, what we want to do is randomly choose. So we have to import the random module like we've done in previous lessons, and we're like, okay, we want to remove that random value. So I could do choice, maybe I'll call it, equals. Just wanted to make sure I had a do this. So choice equals, let's do, obviously we want to choose one of these three numbers randomly, right? And remove it. So we're going to do, so to choose one of these three numbers randomly. So let's paste this in here. Oops. So what I like about this code is that if I paste it, you can see what we've done is, this is the removal, right? We've removed a number, but that number needs to be random. So instead of typing in like a, let's say just was just a 0, remember if it was number at index 0, it would take out the 1, but we need it to be a random number in this range between 0 and 2. Notice how we didn't do rand int because we wanted to just be a placement of the index. So rand range works better in this case, and so then if I did that, I could print the choice out. And notice if you run this, go ahead and type that code out if you haven't yet. And if you run this, it's going to randomly choose between one of those three numbers. Now, let's say you wanted to cycle through them. This would be a good case for a while loop, I think. So if I did like while the length, remember if we did the len command, we would do the length of num. Well, that length is greater than 0. Let's cycle through this and keep printing. So I could just take this, remember, in this is like a for loop if you didn't do one of the ones where we did a while loop. It's just a loop, but it's going to continue the loop while this length right here, which is currently 3 long, is greater than 0. Once it hits 0, it's going to stop executing the loop. So that is a nice way to go through the whole scope. When I run that, it says pop index out of range on line 6. Let me take a look at that. Oh yeah, so as I circle through this, I can't just have this at a constant 2 because it's not always going to be that long. So this range would just change to whatever the length of num is, right? So that way each time the new length of num should repopulate. Oh, and that gives an error as well. So out of range, so if I think about that for a second. Sorry about that. Sometimes when you're doing something new, it's a little glitchy on you, and then I realize, you know what, I don't actually need those. I've never really used this pop command much. So if you look at this, it actually, you don't need the brackets there. So go ahead and update that code. It's just num.pop, and this is automatically going to be assumed that it's an index. So you don't need the brackets. Now by doing it though, I don't even need the 0 in there. It's just going to do a random range. If you don't put 0, it assumes between 0 and the length of that number. So now if you run this code, notice that it's randomly choosing that full population. So like I said, it's good to experiment just with a small thing here. So now we have something that works. It's a good time then to transfer over to the actual challenge for today. Okay, so in this document that I put in the comments, I actually pasted this for you in the description below if you want to take that out. We're going to use this list I have here, I believe, without the words in there. So I'm going to copy that and just delete everything we've done since we've went through it. And now I have this like list of 30 different, each one of these space holders, let's say, is a day. Notice I use text or string because that way I can actually at the end go and paste in all of my challenge. Now you can look through these. I wanted to do a physical 30-day challenge. That was really, really hard for me. Probably this summer. I don't know if I'm quite ready here as school's finishing out for the year. But over the summer, something that would be unlike anything I've done before. Okay, so we pasted in this new list that's 30 long. But what's nice is we can use the same method we used before, which I'll set up here. All right, sorry, so everything is the same. We've still just imported the random package. I changed these to challenge because my list is now called challenge instead of num. The choice is challenge.pop. Notice how I use the same structure here. Nothing changed. I just changed the length to the length of this 30-day list. So now if I run this, right, it pulls out and randomly draws the full 30 days. Now I don't know if we want to do the full 30, but that's a good starting point, right? So we have randomly drawn out our 30 challenges from our list. And again, you could think of this like if you wanted to do like picking, like let's say it was probability, and you were picking, you know, red and blue balls out of a bag without replacement. Now you have a method to do that type of probability, right? So you can now remove things without replacement, and you can always calculate some probabilities with that. Okay, so I've done quite a bit here. I'm just trying to keep the video at a reasonable length as I play around with some different ways to do this. But what I have here is what and if I just run it, you can kind of see it. So let me run this. It's going to say, are you ready for day one's challenge? I say yes. It's going to then tell me my first challenge, like 11. Are you ready for day two's challenge? Notice how it incremented up to day two. I say yes. It's going to give me the second challenge. Are you ready for day three's challenge? If I type in no, it's going to say you're a quitter. So I have this set up here. This is very good structure. I just changed the while loop to be outside of these prompts. I wanted something so that I really didn't want to know my next day's challenge, right? I want it to be random every day, every day. Now, the hard part is that if you just rerun this program every day and don't leave it open, then every time you repress the play button, the execute button, it is going to repopulate your entire list. So let's say I already did challenge 11. Challenge 11 is going to be back into the choice list. So that's one problem I haven't thought ahead on, but still you have a really interesting and strong structure here. I did want to integrate some scoring, but before I do that, I'm just going to put my actual list of stuff in here. It's going to take me a second. I'm just going to paste all of my actual challenges in the numbers. Okay, so it took a while. I went in there and I pasted in all of my list. It's wildly picky about that. I'm going to leave this on here in case you wanted to just use mine. It takes a while. It took me about probably 10 minutes by the time I picked out some errors. And you'll know if you have an error. So when I pasted this in here, if this doesn't read this all as one like continuous line, then you missed a space or a parenthesis somewhere. So it's in there though, and I have it so you can copy and paste it. And so now if I run this, I'm going to pull this out so it reads the whole line. Are you ready for the challenge? Yes. This is coincidental that this one came up. So I got this. I read a book from David Goggins called Can't Hurt Me. And he has a 45-minute workout he posted recently on YouTube. But that, if you're wondering where did I get this whole idea, it was actually from David Goggins and his book Can't Hurt Me. I recommend you give that a read. 500 burpees, probably die, swim 1 mile. So I have these printing out as I had wanted, and if I click no, it's going to say you're a quitter, and then it's just going to re-ask again, are you ready for day 4's challenge? So there you have it. That is basically what I wanted to get done. I'm going to throw just a scoring thing in there real quick if I can, just take a minute, and we'll call it a day. Okay, so there's a lot of code here, but if you wanted to try to put a score, I initiated the score to 0. A couple things that I added, I put this /n, and the reason I did that was to make a new line for this second prompt, but the second prompt, the structure is very similar to the one we already did. So it says, did you complete the challenge? If that variable is said to be yes, then we're going to increment the score up by 10. If it did not, anything else that you'd say besides yes is going to decrease your score by 5. And I would say, like, you could play around with that. You could have variations. Like, you don't have to complete it all the way. You know what I mean? You could have a whole lot more than just those two. But I could say I could allow some failures, well, attempts, just not quite wins in that way. So now if I run this to end off with, I say, am I ready? Yes. All right, you have to do these tricep extensions. Did you complete the challenge? Yes. Boom, your score is 10. Are you ready for your day 2? Yes. Did you complete the challenge? No. Your score goes down by 5. So this isn't perfect. It's still kind of clunky, but I wanted to give you something that we could kick off and end this. Thank you guys so much. If you've been here for multiple days, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and we're always open to new content. So send us your ideas. If there's something you want us to work on, send it our way, and we will get on it. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you out there.